On one fateful night in November last year, which is 2022, can't believe the whole year has gone by. Wow, that's crazy. But about a year ago now, my life was changed forever. It was a night where I came so close to losing my life, as well as endangering the lives of the people who mean the most to me in this entire world. It was also, coincidentally, or not so coincidentally, the very last night I ever drank a drop of alcohol. It has now been just over a year since that night at the time of this recording. I recognize fully that this may very well be possibly the most important video that I ever create or ever release, which means that this video that you are watching now will not be made for clicks. It will not be made for views. It's not made for the YouTube algorithm. I couldn't give a damn how well this video performs, because this video is intended to help whoever watches it as much as I possibly can. Because honestly, I want this video to be something that younger me could have seen a year, maybe even 2 to 3 years ago, before I made possibly the biggest mistake, not even possibly, the biggest mistake of my entire young life. And I just wish that younger me could have seen this. And I really hope that whoever's watching this video now gets saved years, maybe even decades of their lives due to this video. So this video, it's not made for the algorithm, which means it will be longer, mostly unedited, but most importantly, packed with real and genuine value for you. All right, here goes nothing. I am officially 1 year sober. And let me tell you right now that my life, it hasn't been anywhere near this good for a very, very long time. My life, honestly, it's never been better, genuinely. But as they say, to enjoy the light, one must know the darkness. And boy, oh boy, was it a very dark time about a year ago since the recording of this video. To help you understand what I mean and to give you some context, let me explain this very long story in a very short and precise way. On the night in question, I was on the way to a party, and for many reasons, I felt extremely nervous and worried about how I would come off at this party. I really wanted to impress the people going, and I just really wanted to have a good time, despite the nerves and the anxiety and the pressure that I was feeling. After years and years of partying at university, which is what pretty much every varsity student does, and unfortunately developing a bit of a dependency on drinking due to a pretty severe heartbreak that I experienced at the start of my university career, I had learned that when I drank, I became carefree, fun, and all my problems just miraculously disappeared. And at least according to me, I became the life and soul of every party. I was always seen as that fun, carefree, crazy guy at the party who got everybody to just down shooters and get lit and have wild stories. And believe me, some of the stories were pretty wild, and I won't be sharing them in this video. But despite this seemingly glamorous and fun lifestyle, alcohol, it also robbed me of my personality. It robbed me of true, lasting confidence in myself, because alcohol became my crutch. It became my miracle pill, my liquid luck for all the Harry Potter fans. It became my escape. At the time, I had been trying to quit for many, many years. I'd had stints of sobriety here and there, sprinkled with amazing revelations and months of progress. But inevitably, time and time again, I always found myself coming back to just having one more drink, I'll have one here and there. I can always stop when I feel like it. And inevitably, my life would just turn into a heaping pile of dog shit until I'd find the courage to stop for another couple months. And when I had started up again with my drinking about a year ago, I didn't tell anybody, because most of the people that knew me at the time or know me thought that I was not drinking. I was honestly ashamed of the fact that I was lying to people, but more ashamed to tell them the truth that, I'd fallen off the wagon and that I had gone against what I had promised to myself and to everyone who loved me. And the pressure of going to this party convinced me to buy a bottle of brandy, have a few swigs, just on the way there, just to get in the mood, to feel the buzz a little bit, just to alleviate my stress and give me some of this confidence that I thought it gave me. After about 3 hours of being at this party, I'd finished the whole bottle, and I was battling to not only walk, but actually talk to people. I wasn't making sense. At that moment, I knew I had to leave, but I was too ashamed and too embarrassed to ask somebody at the party for help in getting a ride home or calling somebody to give me a lift. And against my best judgment, I got in my own car 45 minutes from home. I literally only remember about half of the trip, maybe less, before I woke up in a ditch on the side of the road in an extremely dangerous industrial area. The front of my car window was completely smashed. I had totally lost my keys, and I eventually woke up to the sound of my screaming parents, who had miraculously found me after I had sent them a WhatsApp with my location, which I have no recollection of whatsoever. It was just an absolute bloody miracle. They had risked their lives to come and find me and save me. But the bigger miracle of all is that somehow, nobody had been hurt from the event. When I woke up the next morning, I was simultaneously filled with the most intense pain and sadness and anger and shame that I'd ever experienced in my life. But at the same time, I felt the most immense level of gratitude, not only for the fact that things had gone okay, but at the fact that I almost felt as though I was given another chance at life. In terms of the horror and the pain, I woke up and just realized that I could have easily been arrested or just as easily been killed. But even worse was the realization that I could have killed somebody in my family. I could have killed an innocent person that was driving home that night because of my recklessness, my stupidity, and my addiction to drinking. I often think about what I would have done today if my actions that night had led to the death of somebody else. And in order for this video not to turn too grim, I'd rather leave that to the imagination, because I'm sure you could imagine what those options might have been. But after the horror and pain and sadness had subsided over a few weeks from the event, let me tell you that I was immensely grateful to be given another chance at living again. I got to have a life. It's as though I almost felt as though God or the heavens or the universe had literally reached their hand down and given me a golden ticket and said, "Here you go, dumbass, you idiot. Here you go. Here is one more chance at life. Here is your redo. Here's your second chance, your last chance. Don't fuck it up." And funny enough, at the time of this incident, I actually recorded a video that I did post to YouTube about a day or two after this had all happened, because I wanted to share the way I felt and I wanted to share what I had learned from that experience. But I pretty much immediately took it down for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because obviously I was just so ashamed and embarrassed, and I didn't want to embarrass my family or friends any more than they probably already were. Secondly, I also really wanted to learn the lesson for real, so that one day I could give the help and the lessons and the advice that I had learned from this experience from strength, from my true self, who can share his story with pride in order to potentially help somebody else that may be going through a similar experience, and not give you the story while I was literally in the depths of hell, super emotional and super broken at the time. I wanted to be my best self so that I could do this video the real justice it deserved. So today in this video, there's a few goals that I would like to accomplish in order to help you, the person watching this video that may be where I was a year ago, to show you that there really is hope and that you can change your life around and have life feel incredible and special and meaningful again. So I'm going to talk about the biggest lessons that I've learned now after being sober for an entire year. I'm also going to show you a truly practical, no bullshit way to try and get sober that worked miraculously, incredibly well for me, in the hopes that nobody has to ever wonder how to do it and that you never have to experience the horror of what I went through. And just as a quick little disclaimer, I want to acknowledge that many people find various different ways of coping with drinking and bad habits and addictions, right? There's no one size fits all to this problem. It's very personal. So I'm just coming out right now and saying that this may not be the ultimate one-stop solution to quitting drinking or solving addiction. It's not what I'm saying. But I genuinely believe that this process is unbelievably effective. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I so wish somebody had told me what I'm about to tell you today years ago. so that I wouldn't even be here having to talk about this. So I promise you to give you as much help as I can, and that you walk away from this video feeling a new sense of inspiration to finally live your life again without the need for a substance. So let's begin by going over all the benefits that you've probably heard about in other videos many, many times by now. And I'm happy to report that pretty much all of them are absolutely true. Since I stopped drinking, my health has never been better. I have lost more weight than I have lost in entire years. While I was drinking, I was pretty overweight. Hey, I'm not perfect. I'm not going to show you these before and after transformation pictures. I still have a long way to go on my personal fitness journey. But man, oh man, I promise you that I am just so much healthier, so much fitter, and just so much more physically attuned to my own body than I've ever been before. And I feel excellent, at least most of the time, right? We still get sick. Just because you stop drinking doesn't mean you're not going to get sick or you're not going to feel tired, but it's night and day. I feel like a whole different man. I've made more money than I've ever made in 2023. And the only reason I was able to do that was because I had the clarity and the dedication and the motivation to live life again and to be more successful than I had been in previous years. I experienced better relationships with my friends, with my family, and I truly felt as though I had almost found this Zen-like state in connecting with others. I feel as though I've always had it, but now, for the first time, I was truly able to experience what really connecting deeply with other human beings was truly like. And like I said, this was all because I didn't have this haze over me, this weird little monkey in the back of my mind directing my behavior. I was finally able to be myself, which allowed me to be real with others, and in turn, allowed them to be real with me too. I've never really been a stressed or anxious person, but let me tell you, ever since I started drinking heavily, my stress and anxiety were pathetic. I got to a stage where I would avoid socializing because I was so scared of looking foolish or saying something silly without having a drink. I literally felt like terrified of picking up the phone and ordering something or calling somebody I knew. Like, it sounds bizarre, but if you have been drinking for a while, you may experience this or be experiencing this right now. You lose yourself and your strengths and your abilities to not only do basic everyday things, but to have basic conversations with other people and to handle stressful situations and handle your anxiety. Because despite what social media and, just society tells you in general, you can, to a very large degree, control your anxious feelings and your depressive episodes. You really do have control over the emotions that you feel on a day-to-day basis. And I truly believe that happiness, it really is a choice if you believe that it is. But I was only able to finally let go of all these false and bizarre notions that everything is stressful and everything is dangerous and everything sucks, and start to realize that life can be so beautiful and you can be at peace 99% of the time if you don't rely on something else to give you that peace. When I quit drinking, I was finally able to identify the core values that I want to live my life by. And those values are presence, compassion, and discipline. Following those values gives my life meaning and purpose. And while I was drinking, there was no ways I was able to follow any one of those values, which left me feeling useless, hopeless, and miserable. And once I started to finally follow those values again, I started to experience real, genuine purpose in my life. But as I've already mentioned, here's the thing. You've heard of these benefits before, and none of these benefits have been enough to convince you to stop drinking alcohol, right? But now I'd like to actually share with you the more subtle lessons, the more kind of surprising things that I learned whilst being sober that may be a bit of a surprise to you. And honestly, when I experienced these things for myself, they were quite phenomenal in changing my mindset and giving me a new perspective on life. The first crazy lesson or surprising lesson that I learned, and this lesson kind of went against my initial expectations of being sober, but I learned that quitting alcohol or any addiction is not a miracle pill, right? I thought that when I finally could get a hold of my drinking, my life would be phenomenal. I would grow superhuman strength. My life would just sort itself out. I'd never experience suffering or pain. It's almost as though you tell yourself that over the hill is paradise and perfection. But I realized that this was a lie and that there is still so much more for me to do, for me to accomplish, and for me to grow as a person than I expected. But hold on, before you get discouraged and think, well, fuck, if there's not going to be like a big payoff at the end, why even stop, right? May as well just carry on being blissfully ignorant. But before you jump on that wagon, hear me out, right? Because it's actually a beautiful lesson to learn here. You will realize that, yes, even though quitting is not the one-stop solution for your life, it is a prerequisite for all other change to even have the chance of occurring. In other words, quitting gives you the gift of control. It gives you the pleasure and the joy of being back in the driver's seat of your own life so that you can finally see where the changes and fixes and improvements and acceptances need to be made in your own life. I am of the personal belief, and feel free to disagree with me, right? But I believe that anybody who drinks alcohol, at least in large amounts, consistently, those people will never see their true potential. They'll never fully be actualized. Because how could they be? How could you ever realize your true, authentic, and powerful nature when you have this fog over your vision constantly? It's like driving a car in the middle of the night with this cloud cover, expecting to achieve massive speed records, right? Getting to a place as fast as you can or as efficiently as you can. You can't do that when you don't have a picture or the vision of the entire track. The conditions of your sight need to be cleared before you are able to finally put your foot down on the gas and run the best race you possibly can. The problem is that so many people get into drinking for the opposite of this reason. They realize that they have problems in their lives, right? Oftentimes very small problems to begin with. But as they start drinking to avoid the problem here, avoid it there, start to, find different ways of coping with their stress and anxiety. As soon as they start doing that, the problems not only grow and grow and become scarier and scarier, but you, just like the driver in the fog and the rain, start to lose your ability to control the car. You start to lose the ability to control your own life and experience. Speaking of change and realizing your full potential, another thing I've learned being sober for a year is that alcohol is nothing but a cheap imitation of the thing we all truly want most in this life. And that is true, lasting peace of mind and freedom from the negative and critical inner voice inside your own mind. We all want true, lasting confidence. We all want a peace and a state of bliss where we can always, no matter what the circumstance, right? We can always come back to and feel at peace and centered and calm. We all want to feel like the main character in our story, correct? Alcohol, unfortunately, gives you a very brief little taste of this heaven or nirvana for the Buddhists out there watching this video. It is a small but insignificant taste, just a taste of enlightenment. Because what does alcohol do? It paralyzes your prefrontal cortex, which unfortunately leads to you experiencing this moment of freedom of mind, freedom of thoughts, and it finally shuts up that negative asshole in your own head, which makes you feel as though you can do anything you set your mind to. That's why you can go out to the bar and talk to the pretty girl. That's why you can be the clown of every party, making everybody laugh, because all of a sudden, all the limitations in your own mind have been absolutely cleared, at least for a little while. But getting sober makes you realize that this little taste of nirvana and enlightenment and full confidence isn't true. Getting sober makes you realize very quickly that this is nothing but a silly illusion. It's not real because you haven't actually gained these superhuman powers and strengths. You haven't gained this almighty confidence and peace and relaxation. You've poisoned your mind. You have literally disabled critical functions inside your own mind, which doesn't make you smarter. It doesn't make you more confident, and it actually can lead to a lot of bad things happening. Exhibit A, right? And I'm sure you've been in many moments where you thought you were confident, but you ended up saying something very horrible to somebody else. Maybe you thought, I can approach this girl because I have confidence, and ended up saying a very offensive and potentially rude thing to this person that either got you slapped or a drink thrown in your face if you're on the worst end, but it also could have just made you feel like an absolute idiot, an asshole for being so blatantly rude. Because it's not you that's in control. It's the alcohol. It's an illusion. When you become sober, you realize that you must actually develop the real thing for yourself. And you can develop the real thing. The only problem is that, yes, It takes time. It takes months, maybe even years of practice, mindfulness, and working on yourself. And that's why nobody does it, because nobody wants to hear that the answer to self-mastery and self-enlightenment and self-peace and confidence, it takes work and it takes time. But let me just tell you that even just with a year of sobriety under my belt, I have made significant strides to becoming that highest version of myself. I already feel like a totally new person, and I cannot wait to see what Niall looks like 10 years from now, because Niall finally realized that he got his power back and that alcohol was nothing but a cheap imitation and a lie. Alcohol destroys you in the end, whereas real, true and lasting change, development, and enlightenment makes you whole. It builds you back up again, and it allows you to realize your full self. Therefore, the real gift of sobriety isn't weight loss, it's not money, it's not getting more girls, right? As much as those things do improve, it's not the real gift. The true gift of sobriety is getting back your full 100% potential. And more importantly, your 100% ability to control yourself and to control your life. And the final crazy lesson I learned during this 1 year of sobriety is that an FTE, or what we call a fuck this event, we'll get to that more later on in this video, but I realized that everybody thinks that they have to hit this FTE event, or in other words, the rock bottom event, to finally be able to change and give up their addiction. But what I realized is that even though, yes, having this experience, having this FTE or rock bottom event is not actually enough for you to finally gain control over your life. The sad truth is that I had many rock bottoms before I had this event, right? I've had many moments where I sat with myself and I thought, damn, bro, like maybe it's time to stop drinking, right? I've had many embarrassments, many failures, many moments of clarity where I realized that, holy shit, like this is bad for me. But did I stop? And honestly, even this moment of crashing my car and putting the lives of people and myself at risk, months later, didn't actually hold the same weight that I thought it would. When everybody else says that, yeah, you just need to hit rock bottom and you'll have the motivation, this endless motivation to change. Why isn't that enough? The reason it's not enough is because you need a plan and you need a system that's going to be with you long after the motivation to change your life finally wears off. Because at the end of the day, unfortunately, motivation in whatever way, happiness, pain, suffering, it doesn't last. It is not sustainable. And so now I'm going to share with you the step-by-step process and plan that I still have in place that allows me to effortlessly, and I truly mean effortlessly, not drink anymore. So here is the way that I finally got sober. And I really hope that this helps you as much as it's helped me. Step one is an FTE. Like I said, a fuck this experience. But hold on. I know what I've just said, right? I remember that you don't need one, but just hear me out, because if you are lucky enough to have one of these things, or lucky enough to have a rock bottom, and as bizarre as it sounds, it truly is a blessing to have one, you need to be using it, at least initially, to motivate you and supercharge you to staying committed to the change you're about to make. And I'll explain why. As I said earlier, my fuck this event reminds me on a daily basis that me, somehow got blessed with another chance at living this life. And it reminds me consistently that I should never take my life for granted. It was a super powerful, motivating force, especially at the beginning of my sobriety journey. Most of you that are watching this video that are currently hiding the fact that you do have a problem with alcohol will now throw up your hands in the air and say, you hypocrites, right? Easy for you to say that it's easy for you to stop drinking when you actually had a reason to stop, right? You had a moment that was scary enough to quote unquote motivate you to stop drinking alcohol. But what about me, right? Maybe alcohol hasn't had a significant impact on your life just yet. And maybe you don't have these unbelievably large reasons to quit drinking. So what must I do now? Must I just let my life fall apart before I ever take action? Must I quit my job, lose my relationships, go homeless, right? No, you don't have to do that. And you actually should not wait for that to happen in order for you to finally take the decision to stop drinking alcohol. Because here's the sad truth of having an FTE or a rock bottom. The sad truth is that eventually your body will return to what we know as homeostasis or baseline happiness. When you stop drinking, big surprise, life gets good again, right? Your health starts rising, you feel happier, you start enjoying your friendships, right? Life starts feeling good. And what happens when life starts getting good? You start forgetting your sadness. You start forgetting your anxiety. And this happens because you, just like every other human being, eventually forgets what it felt like to be in the depths of hell. What happens on the other end of the coin? Your reasons for stopping drinking, the reasons that motivated you in the first place, like feeling sad, depressed, anxious, right? Those things start to diminish. And with them, your motivation starts to diminish, which eventually leads you to this weird space a few months later, which I had visited many times in my life, right? Where I thought, wow, I feel much better now. I'm not sad anymore. Oh yeah, drinking sounds like fun. And then the cycle repeats itself over and over again. And if I'm being honest with you, even after my whole ordeal, after I literally almost died and injured people that I loved, as horrible as this sounds, 6 months later, I didn't feel not even half as bad as I'd felt. And I know that sounds like a psychopathical thing to say, but it's true. 6 months later, once my life started feeling great again, I started to forget why I'd stopped in the first place. And if it hadn't been for the plan I'm about to share with you, you will find yourself in the same spot, which will inevitably lead you to yet again another relapse, which is not what you want. That being said, having a rock bottom experience or an FTE is super powerful and useful because it leads you to fulfilling the next step in this process of sobriety. Having that initial fright or that shock or that experience helps you gain momentum. It helps you finally push that boulder from its stationary spot. And once you get that boulder rolling, you gain a beautiful word that we know and love as momentum. And once you have this momentum going, you will finally be able to commit to and start working on step 2, which is commitment and momentum. Like I said, to get a boulder to move, initially it is very difficult to get that son of a gun rolling. It's really hard and it requires a lot of effort. But once it's moving, once it's rolling down that hill, it just requires a little push here and there until that thing is flying so fast that you barely have to do anything, right? That's the point I've gotten to in my life now, where not drinking isn't this massive boulder I have to move anymore. It's just this light every now and again that I've got to do. Just this little blow, right? And this big bastard just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. And it literally, as a very nice analogy, it crushes everything in my way and it allows me to pave the way and clear the path. This is a great analogy. I'm a genius. You see, quitting alcohol makes you a genius, bro. There's your bonus tip for the day. But in all seriousness, right? Once it clears that path, the road becomes easy, right? But to get started is absolutely critical. Now, there's a harsh truth about quitting drinking or honestly stopping any bad addiction that I need to share with you right now. And you need to literally embed this truth into your psyche, into your heart and your soul, because it's absolutely fundamental to this process. And that is the fact that you cannot be told by me or by anybody you know about the benefits of quitting. That'll be enough to give you the momentum and the motivation to finally become sober. Despite all the benefits I just mentioned and all the stuff that I used to inspire you, right? That was all nice. That was all pretty. It was fluff, but it's not real. Because here's the truth. In order for you to finally get this done, for you to become sober and live the life of your dreams, you, my friend, need to see the benefits for yourself so that they are here and you can remind yourself of them physically and fully every time you need to keep on pushing that boulder. You also need to see the consequences of what alcohol does to your life for yourself. You don't need your mom, you don't need your teachers, you don't need well-meaning people to tell you, oh, if you don't stop drinking, you'll end up homeless or you'll end up doing bad things, right? You've had all these people come to your school when you were younger or your varsity or even friends of yours that have warned you, right? But it does fuck all. It doesn't help you. You need to see the stuff for your damn self. As an example, in my case, I know for an absolute fact that if I do not stop drinking, A, I will never reach my full potential, and B, I have a very high potential, probably possibility, I will lead myself off of a cliff if I do not commit to this lifestyle of sobriety. And that is enough. Trust me, that is really enough for me to look at a drink and say, you know what? I'm good, bro. I value my life and I value my potential. But I needed to see that for my damn self before I could find the reason to do it. Because when I finally realized firsthand for myself that the only way for me to fulfill my true potential and not end up hurting myself was to stop drinking, bro, I suddenly gained all the motivation and discipline in the entire world to quit. But it was only because I was able to see the reality of life and the truth of alcohol in my own heart. For real this time. Willpower and discipline were literally never needed again. And it really is that simple. But like I said, for that to happen, I needed to see the changes for myself. And for that to happen for you too, you simply need to be sober for a long enough period of time for you to start accumulating these experiences and these wins for yourself. So now you may be asking, well, how do I get this time? How do I stay sober long enough for me to finally start seeing the benefits and finally start gaining this motivation to quit forever, right? How do I get this boulder moving? How do I get it off the ground? To do that, you set a 100% commitment to quitting, but not in the way that you may think. Most people will hear that now and think to themselves, oh, I've got to proclaim my faith to God and to Alcoholics Anonymous and swear off drinking forever. But as we know, many people who do make this decision, like I did, they fall off. They end up going back to it and they end up failing and becoming alcoholics again. It is because they promised that they would never drink for the rest of their lives. And what did this create in their own minds? It created pressure. It created anxiety and stress, and it fucked with their already low levels of willpower, discipline, and resolve. Because let's be honest with each other for a minute. As a drinker, you have lost pretty much all of your willpower and discipline reserves, right? You have probably chipped away at that son of a bitch for so long now that it's probably hard for you to say no to anything at this stage. I know that's offensive, but be honest with me, because I know that was me for a long time. I wouldn't say no to anything. And every time I had an impulse, I would just go right back to the substance or right back to any bad habit that made me feel comfortable, but in the end, destroyed my life and destroyed my progress. And so the moment you feel overwhelmed by this massive commitment and this massive resolve to change, chances are 99% of the time, you will inevitably fail simply because forever is too long of a time to commit to. To fix this, all you need to do is start with a small commitment. You set a very small but a very achievable goal of being sober in your own mind that you know deep down, you know what, I could probably stick to this. Even if I just do, let's say, a month and I go back, right? If you believe you can stick to a small enough commitment, you'll be amazed as to how fast you get that ball rolling and how fast you eventually find the resolve to stay sober for the long term. Alcoholics Anonymous, or AA, literally takes this to the extreme, and all of their members, you may have even heard some of them in videos or in real life say this to you, right? And all they simply say is, I commit to not drinking just for today. And they say that to themselves every single day. I will not drink today. And then tomorrow comes and they set the same commitment. Today, I will not drink. The next day comes, today I won't drink, right? I didn't need AA. I didn't need an organization to get sober. But the principle stands. You need to set a firm but achievable commitment for yourself, and then you simply scale it up and up and up until it becomes a lifetime thing. In my case, I started out by promising myself that I would just not drink for 3 months. And with my fuck this experience, because as I said, it came in massive use and it came in handy for that initial motivation, right? Because for 3 months, I thought to myself, shit, bro, I could probably do longer, but I made it achievable. And I thought, you know what, if I could just stay 3 months sober and start to see how better my life gets from that point of rock bottom, maybe then I'll start to accumulate some of the confidence and strength and experiences that would allow me to keep the boulder rolling and to keep going. When I finally got to 3 months, I committed to another 3. And then I did 6. By the time my FTE experience was over, by the time I had forgotten what it was like to be in the pits of hell, my boulder was rolling. I'd accumulated already so many positive experiences of how much better my life had been without alcohol. And I've listed them all in the beginning of this video. I told you about them all. But here's the sad truth. Like I said, you can't keep watching another YouTube video or listening to another person sober tell you about these benefits, hoping that it'll inspire you. You need to see the proof of the pudding for yourself. And so after 6 months, when my initial motivation and pain and suffering had gone, I had the ball rolling and I thought, you know what? if I could just make it a year without drinking, I think I could stop forever. And that became the truth of my reality. 1 year in, and now every time I think about drinking, I couldn't even imagine going back to it. It's not even a question for me, but it was only possible because I was able to commit to a goal and to keep the momentum going. Commitment, momentum. Like, I could easily now sit and say, I'm never drinking again, but I'm not stupid enough to say that. Now I'm like, you know what? Let's make it 2 years. Let's make it 3. Let's make it 10. And like I said, I've never been more sure in myself that I will not go back to that lifestyle because I've seen how much better life can be and how much better it can get when you start to take your sobriety seriously. It's crazy. It's simple. I know it sounds ridiculously simple, but it's true. It's really true. The truth is, I would never throw away an entire year of progress for a moment of pleasure like I would have done a year ago. And I know that that is only going to become a stronger commitment in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Here's the final step and final bit of advice that I want to leave you with today. That is something I learned literally on day one of the experience of this entire year of being sober. I actually mentioned it in the first video that I recorded and ultimately took down. But I realize now, a year later, that that lesson was true. And it was profoundly impactful and profoundly important, and perhaps the most important thing I can tell you in this video today that might help you. And here it is summed up into one simple sentence. Addiction grows in the dark. And the only way to destroy something growing in the dark is to simply bring it into the light. And the best way I know to bring something into the light, as painful and scary as it may sound, is honesty and accountability. I'm not going to lie to you. This is extremely hard, but it is also extremely crucial. For months and potentially years, I drank alone in secrecy. And I did this not only to protect my secret and my own ego, but I did it to protect the people around me. I did it so that my family and my friends wouldn't have to be embarrassed about their friend and their son and their brother that had this problem and just somehow couldn't shake it. I didn't want to embarrass the people I loved the most because of me. Shame is a truly dangerous and terrible thing. And in the dark, that son of a bitch only grows stronger. And in the dark, my self-confidence and my spark and the light that made me truly me, it started to wither away and die, which made it oh so much easier to turn to drink in those dark moments, to turn to the one friend and comfort I had that would even momentarily just take the pain away. But here's the thing, that darkness, it'll consume you, but only if you let it. It was literally only when I finally found the bravery and the little courage I had left to finally speak the truth, to finally come into the light and be honest about what was going on. It was only then that I finally start to remember who Niall Higgins was again. But more importantly than that, I realized and remembered how much support Niall truly had. Support that he didn't even remember he had. And the realization that he didn't need to do it alone. And he honestly should never have tried to do it alone in the first place. And that he needed the people around him. And that you need the people around you. For some people, this can be Alcoholics Anonymous. And that is perfectly fine. If you find solace in that organization, that is brilliant. Or whatever place you can get that support from. But as I said, I didn't need AA. But I needed somebody. And you also need somebody. And preferably, you don't just need somebody. You need everybody. And you need to tell the truth. People are so afraid of being seen as weak. And I was so afraid. All of us are afraid of being seen as weak. Are afraid of others ridiculing them and judging them and mocking them. But the funny truth of this whole thing is, you will actually be an inspiration to others. You will inspire so many other people out there that are going through the same things as you, because there are so many other people out there that are suffering with the same problem. This is not a unique affliction. This affects a staggering amount of people. You are not weak, and more importantly, you are not alone. And once you start gaining these experiences of sobriety and you start seeing the benefits and you start gaining that confidence back, you will actually give such little fuck about what other people say about you. You won't even care, bro. And if you do lose friends on this journey of honesty and this journey of revealing that you need help, right? They weren't your friends in the first place. Because at the end of the day, what are friends worth if not to support you during your darkest hours? So if you lose a couple of shitty friends along the way, then good riddance. They don't have a place in your bright future once you get sober. If it was not for my friends and my family being there for me 1 year ago and today, I may not be here today. And that is the honest truth. You may never have seen this video. And honestly, I would like to actually take this quick second to thank all my family and all my friends, my mom and my dad, my sister. I want to thank you all for helping me, for listening to me, for supporting me. Because if it wasn't for you, I just hope you know how thankful I am to you and how sorry I am for ever putting you through what I did. And I just want you to know that I'm eternally grateful for you sticking by my side through all of this. I love you and I appreciate you so much. And I promise I will make you proud. This will not be in vain. In order to make sure that this doesn't just become yet another video you watch that you hope will change your life instead of actually change your life, I'd like to personally invite you now to take the first step and be brave. Bring your darkness into the light. You don't need to make a video like this or post some grand gesture to social media. You really don't. All I ask is that you simply pick up the phone right now. If this message has inspired you, you pick up the phone, you dial the name and the number of the person that you trust more in this entire world, that you love the most, and you come clean. You be honest with them and you seek their help, even if it's just for the accountability aspect, even if it's just to tell them that you love them and you want to change. Take the first step and feel that darkness finally being brought into the light. It's scary, but when it's done, man, you'll feel this whole weight just lifted off your shoulders. I promise you that much. And if that's even too much for you to handle right now, that's fine. Feel free to even leave a comment below telling future viewers who find this video about your experience with your addiction or about your commitment to change. Show your honesty. Bring it into the light with me. Feel free to come back and update us all with progress and comments and lessons learned, maybe new insights that you've picked up on your own sobriety experience that the rest of us could benefit from here. I'd love for this video to become a forum of sorts, a haven of safety and integrity and honesty where we can all revisit from time to time when we need motivation, because I know I'll be coming back here and our messages of hope and insight and inspiration could inspire people for years to come. Let's do this together. And remember, if I and so many others can do this, there is absolutely no reason you can't do this too. You are so much more than your addictions. And your life, my friend, truly begins the moment that you realize you and only you have full control of your own life and your own decisions. You always have a choice. So tell me, what will you choose today?